Hey there, beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of Pain to Power, the podcast where we talk all things healing, growth, and turning pain into power. I'm your host, Jill Ripley, and today I have a truly special guest joining me, someone who's played an important role in my own healing journey. I'm sitting down with Laurie McAnaugh, board-certified life coach, speaker, and founder of Laurie McAnaugh Private Life Coaching. Laurie's work focuses on helping people get unstuck, shifting limiting beliefs, and create lives rooted in purpose and possibility. In this conversation, we'll dive into what life coaching really is, how it differs from therapy, and the transformative power of changing your mindset. So get comfortable, open your heart, and let's step into this beautiful conversation about growth, clarity, and empowerment. Laurie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to share with my listeners what you have to offer.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. I've always admired your work. I really appreciate the fact that when we worked together, you helped me to work through so many things in my life that I found were, just unclear to me. So you helped me to clarify some things. And I was wondering if you could tell me what first drew you to become a life coach, and how did your own personal journey shape your coaching style?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So what drew me to life coaching was a couple of different things. So years ago, I was coaching sales. And when I was working with my sales team, what I noticed was the people who were successful were willing to look at the personal growth within themselves and their belief systems and their mindsets. And they recognized that if they believed that they were capable and they believed that in what was possible for them, they were successful. And the people who would come to me and say, it can't be done. The economy's bad. It's too hard. The market's saturated. Everybody has what we are offering. They had all the excuses and they struggled. So when I would work with people and I would say, well, what are some of the obstacles that are getting in your way of being the successful entrepreneur that you want to be? And inevitably, the answers were all life things, right? My husband won't watch the kids while I go and, make phone calls or go out to do the work that I want to do. And it was all of different life things that would get in people's way that made it difficult for them to be successful. So when I would say, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of these obstacles, these life obstacles, right? Let's put sales away for a moment and really talk about how do we overcome some of these life issues, the things you tell yourself, the things you say out loud, how you communicate with a spouse or a loved one. And the people who said, all right, let's dive in, were just they soared, and that was so fun for me to work with people at that deeper level. And those who said, oh, no, I'm not going there. Just teach me how to sell.
Yeah, so that's really gratifying.
Yeah, I felt like I was kind of banging my head up against the wall a little bit and so I realized that what I wanted to do on a regular basis was really work with those who wanted to go to those deeper places. And so, yeah. And I think just before I started in sales, I had gone through a bout of really significant depression, agoraphobia, just massive panic attacks. And it had been brought on by a medicine that my doctor had given me. And it just spiraled. And so my climb out of that, I had gone off the medicine, and my climb out of that was about 6 solid months. And when I realized how to work my own self out of, changing mindsets and what I realized in that journey was even though my anxiety had, the dial had been turned up to 1,000, I realized that I kind of lived with this low grade fears my whole life that I hadn't really noticed before. And that I'd given my power to feel happy and peaceful away to fear for my whole life, but didn't know it until the dial got turned up and I had to claw my way out of the hole. And so when I got to the other side, that's when I had started in sales, and I was just really ready to have those deep level conversations with people. And yeah, so I ended up, inevitably transitioning from sales into and got, trained as a life coach.
So I
And
feel like the journey along the way from what we have gone through in our past really prepares us to be that beacon of light for others along the way and help them
yeah, so
to
true.
come through. And it is so gratifying when you help someone through something and they come out on the other side and they're better off for it. You're like, wow, that's so impactful. Like that feels amazing. So
Yeah.
helping someone else really is helping yourself.
Totally. Yeah. I
Yeah.
learn from my clients all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Can you share one turning point or challenge in your life that transformed how you work with clients today?
Oh my goodness. I would say that what I just shared is probably, the first major turning point for me. I felt, I was a very independent person and I felt like I was really strong. And when I couldn't leave the house and I felt like it was the scariest thing in the world just to go to the grocery store. And I would, berate myself and tell myself I had this beautiful life. What is wrong with you? Or aren't you, why can't you go to the grocery store? This is crazy. And so I was not nice to myself because at that time, I hadn't really put together like why it was happening.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I say to people, what happens with fear and anxiety is it's like a fire pit fire, and we feed it all of this negativity because it's scary. So
Right.
when this happens, and whether it be something that's brought on by a traumatic event, or something that's brought on by a medicine like me, or something that's just brought on by life can be really challenging and hard. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah,
And so
life is hard.
it can be really challenging. And so when we feed that fire pit fire, more fear,
Yeah.
more suffering, right? Negativity, that fire gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I always call it brain on fire because when we're in the middle of that, say a panic attack, where, our first inclination is to say, why is this happening? This is so scary. And we go into fright mode. And
Yeah.
until we start learning how to talk back to the voice instead of just listen to it, then that
Exactly.
fire can die down and we can really get a hold of our mindset and our thoughts. I heard a great talk years ago with Dr. Rudy Tanzi, who wrote a book with Deepak Chopra called Superbrain, and they talked about how you are not your brain. Your brain is another organ in the body running automatically, and it's there to make sure you stay alive. It's scanning for threats, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you are in charge of your brain, not the other way around. And so, yeah, coaching is
Yeah.
really about looking at what are some of the things that we're actually listening to instead of kind of talking back to and shifting.
Yeah, I that reminds me of the old story that the grandfather's talking to his grandson and says, there are two wolves.
Yes.
There's one that is fearful and there is one that is kind and benevolent,
Yeah.
and you have to watch out for them. And he says, well, how do you know which one is gonna win? And he said, it's the one that you feed the
The one
most,
you feed.
the one you
Absolutely.
feed. Can you tell me what distinguishes life coaching from therapy in your view, and where do you see the boundaries overlapping?
Yeah, so people ask this all the time. In my office, I'm not, treating clinical depression. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not, treating mental illness. We're not diving into traumas and working to go backwards. And there's a huge amount of value to therapy. And there are many times in my practice where I have referred to a therapist because I think people do need to unpack, certain traumas. And that's not what we do in life coaching. We really look at whatever's going on right now and what do we want to move forward. And I have a lot of clients who work with both the therapist and me. I've had psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists refer me, and they continue to work with their client while I'm also working with the client. So we are working on what's going on moving forward versus, that therapist might be working with that person digging into an old trauma. Where I'm not doing that. Oftentimes people will come in and say, this happened to me. I've gone through a lot of therapy. I feel like I'm on the other side of it. And what I can do is, over 20 years of coaching, you start to, recognize human behavior patterns, and as I'm working with somebody, I'll kind of get some intuitive, hits, so to speak, where I'll say, I feel like I need to dive into that a little bit more. And somebody might tell me whatever's happened in the past, and then I might notice how whatever that was is impacting the way they're making choices right now, and it's stopping them from actually moving forward. So I might say, how do we help you to become aware of when that is happening? Right. And that's unique to each person. Right. And how do we create maybe a pattern interrupt when you catch yourself in that thought or in that mindset to be able to say, no, new narrative, right? That's an old narrative. Now this is the new narrative. So just working with people to recognize, what are some of the things that get in their way. And, oftentimes it is from back there, but we're not diving into back there like a
Yeah.
therapist will, right?
Right.
And sometimes that's very necessary.
Yeah, and a lot of times there's great value in letting sleeping dogs lie too. I don't
Yep.
think therapy is always about uncovering what exactly happened at 2 years old or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes it's just, where are you in the moment?
Right.
How can you move forward from here?
Right. And
Right.
I guess how they overlap is a therapist will do a lot of the things that, I'm talking about as far as, a solution focused therapist who's really not working maybe with traumas, because therapists do also, have all sorts of niches as well. And so, some of them don't work within the trauma, mental illness. They might, diagnose something, but they may be working on very similar to a coach. So solution focus, where are we right now? Where do we need to go to move forward? It's really whatever, certain clients might need the most. And for somebody who's needing to really work through a trauma that, may be recent,
Right.
it's really important, and can be beneficial.
For
So
sure. So you run a 6-week Powerful Women series.
I
What are
do.
the themes or practices you emphasize in that kind of group work?
So yeah, I run this a couple times a year usually, and I try to keep it a small group, and we work through some concepts in each week. The big work is actually between the class. I call it a class, but it's really just a series of group coaching, sessions where women who are often strangers to each other, sometimes they'll have friends take it in, together, which is great because then they talk in between class. And I just present some concepts that are not new. Everybody knows what they are, right? So one of them is intention. Who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? And so what they would do is then take that whole week after to really be doing a 30,000 foot view, being their own observer without judgment, which is the hardest part for people, and just kind of watch yourself as you interact with the world around you, with your people, with situations, and paying attention to, you know, if you're having this intentional question inside your head, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? What's the message I want to give off about who I am? You're going to make a different choice, right? If your go-to is to be reactionary, right? And defensive, or put yourself in the victim mindset. And then I'm asking you over here, hey, let's do a 30,000 foot view. Give yourself a pause before you react. Ask yourself, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? If it's strong, confident, powerful, compassionate, right? Whatever those words are for you, is the reaction in alignment with who you say you want to be? And over time, as we watch ourselves, and I would say with fascination, right? Like, oh, fascinating how I have that trigger and then I react. Okay, I'm working on that. I saw that. And sometimes we have to see things over and over and over and over again, right? That's how the brain works, right? Those neural pathways are deeply grooved. So it's really just retraining. It's kind of the podcast you did with the Boston Buddha. Is that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. And so one of the things he said was, in meditation, and I see, it's similar to what I'm doing, is that mindful work, that mindful inner work, and building this sense of inner strength. And meditation certainly does that too. And what he said was, it's like mental push-ups, right? If you do them once, right, you're not going to have any value to that. But if you're doing it
Right.
and over again. So yeah, in that 6 week, I was telling them this is not a 6 week class. This is a class for the rest of your life. So we're going to get this started, get you thinking in new ways. And we take the concepts that everybody knows, but we take them a lot deeper. And I ask them to really consider things on a very profound level.
Yeah, so it's a 6 week introduction to the life practices that you're going to bring forward and use from now on.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I
Exactly. And
love that.
oftentimes people take it many times. They'll
Well,
swing out and then they'll swing back in and take it again and then they'll swing out, and it might be another year or two, and then all of a sudden, you know what? I need a refresher. And it's interesting too, because somebody will come in after taking it, once or twice, and maybe it's been a couple years and they haven't gone through it. And I always ask on the first night, what made you sign up for this? And a lot of times what somebody will say is, I need a refresher. Like, I've forgotten everything, all the things that I said that I would keep doing. I'm not doing any of it. And then somebody who's never taken it will say, I'm in this for this. And that person who's been through it and says, I've forgotten anything, you can see the look on their face. Oh, wow, wait a minute. That used to be me. I don't do that anymore. I didn't forget everything. So it's interesting, how so then we just keep stacking.
Yeah, so
Next level.
that's what I said in the interview with the Boston Buddha is we
Yes.
our baseline isn't the same, right?
Yes.
We always, we grow. And even though
Yes.
we do forget these things, we've still not dropped down to our original level.
Exactly.
So,
Yes.
yeah, it's constant life work. We're never ever going to
Constant.
stop learning to grow or needing to improve ourselves because, life comes at us,
That's
right?
right.
So life gets in the way and things can get overwhelming. And then the things that are beneficial, for some reason, they fall by the wayside because you feel overwhelmed by
Yeah,
what's going on. And you need that refresher.
you
And
do.
that's
And
why I meditate every single day. And I tell people this, I would rather leave my house without brushing my teeth in the morning
yeah,
than meditating
yeah,
because for me because I can be very reactionary and I know that about myself. I work
yeah,
on that
yeah,
constantly.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm so much better than I used to be, but I'll find myself like going blah over something and I go, oh, Jill, where did that come from? Like, you're supposed to be this chill, amazing, like,
Yeah.
helpful person, and you're snapping but I'm human like anybody else, and
That's right.
we
That's
all have to
right.
take a step back and get a refresher. And so I'm not surprised that people come back to
Well,
your
I say
course.
to them, I am doing this work right beside all of you. I'm taking this class. This is my, 658th time. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, I am right next to you doing the same work. I'm not asking you to do anything that I'm not doing myself. So
I
it's
love hearing
it's
you
just
say
life
that.
work and it's
Hmm.
never going to end. And it's effort. It is absolute effort, just like meditation is effort. And, but that's where the juice is, right? That's where the
Yeah.
richness is, and it's worth it. The
Yeah.
relationships that you get, you know, when you do this work, the relationships you can build and strengthen, but also the relationship with yourself, the fulfillment, the peace. Who doesn't want more of that?
We all, especially in this divided society that we're in right now, we could all use a little more
Yeah, we've
peace.
been in it for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the
Yeah.
biggest misconceptions that people have about life coaching?
I think some of the misconceptions, I'm thinking of a couple of clients that are guys that are just, guys are they're fixers. They're fixers, right? So they don't want to waste time in a problem. Fix this. And so some of the misconceptions are, I'll get somebody in and they'll say, just tell me how to do this. Like that is not what we do here. So trying to help people to recognize like we are partners and I would say we're thinking partners. We're going to put our heads together. And yes, I have the value of, experience and watching human behavior patterns, which is incredibly valuable. And it prompts me to consider different perspectives and what somebody else might be focusing on that is actually keeping them stuck. And if I'm offering another perspective or another five perspectives, and which one fits the most for you, that I can definitely do. But in essence, we're putting our heads together and we are, we're walking the path together
Yeah,
and
it's
we're
a partnership.
bouncing. Yeah, it's a partnership. We're bouncing ideas, off of each other. And I'm not attached to being right. I'm not, I want people to really see because it's hard. It's hard when you feel like you're on an island by yourself. And people will say to me all the time, I don't have these types of deep, profound conversations with anybody else. Many do, but many don't.
Yeah.
Many don't. And, many kind of they get up in the morning, they go to school, they go to work, they come home, they eat their dinner, they watch a little TV, they might, have an activity after work or school, and they go to bed, wake up, we do it all over again. And there's not time. Everybody's busy and there's just not this is not the focus on these types of really profound conversations about building inner strength.
Yeah.
And when we do have these conversations, amazing things can happen.
And I love that it's a partnership, right? And so it's not you telling them what to do. They
Right.
need to own their progress, right?
Totally.
So you help them to uncover what it is that they need to
Right.
uncover and work on.
Right.
So I love that. And so I was wondering, without revealing any identifying markers, can you share a case or a client story where coaching has led to a significant breakthrough? What was the shift and how did it happen?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure you've had a lot. I'm sorry if I'm
I'm like
trying
trying
to
to
pin
let
you
me like
down.
I'm trying to think of like who would I even yeah, that one's a tough because I've got so many people in my head. So let me, gosh, so many jump out at me. I'll just go with the first person that came to mind. Came in miserable. Um, just because I do work with a lot of couples, but this particular client was just, she came in by herself And she wanted to know how to go through the process of divorce. Not that she wasn't looking for me to tell her how to do that. I'm obviously not a lawyer or a financial planner or, any of those things. But she wanted somebody to just partner with her as support as she made some of the big decisions that she needed to make. She felt like she needed to make. But she was not looking for me to help her save her marriage. She had already determined that was impossible. And it was interesting as, again, I'll often get sort of these intuitive hits, and, I'll hear a voice inside my head, when somebody will say something, and I'll kind of get this little buzz going, pay attention to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we circle back to that? But yeah, so I just felt like I shouldn't let this go. Like, yeah, I needed to kind of ask some questions about how do we get here. And she started talking about, her relationship and her marriage. And I always kind of move aside, I always ask first, is there, abuse, adultery, addictions? And not to say those things cannot be overcome, because they absolutely can be, but it's a different conversation. So lying,
Sure.
stealing, cheating, all of those, that real heavy things. But once we move that aside and it's the usual back and forth or, not getting along, I talked to her about what is your perception as far as whose responsibility is it to make you happy? And when we uncovered, the more we talked, was able to uncover that she was putting all of that responsibility onto him. And so when we have these expectations in our heads that somebody should think like us, act like us, think the way we think they should, behave the way that we think they should, then the message that we're giving off is, no matter what you do, it's not enough.
Mm.
And she was actually feeling he was giving her that message. But the more we talked, she recognized that wasn't the case, that she was actually giving him the message and that she was putting all of her happiness, the responsibility for all of her happiness in his hands. And we started having some really encouraging conversations where she went home and started practicing new mindsets. And today I get texts all the time from her of her and her husband doing all sorts of fun things around the world, and they are just so happy.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that so much because oftentimes what we think is the problem is not the problem.
right.
And so sometimes it's digging and digging and digging, uncovering and dusting off and
Yeah,
well, oh, there it
exactly.
is. Right?
Exactly.
So it's totally different.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's next for you? Are there any new programs, books, or
Um,
projects developing that you'd like to share with our listeners?
yeah, right now, I'm doing a lot of private coaching, and I'm working the group coaching as well. And every once in a while, I've thrown out a powerful men's group. The attendance isn't quite as robust with the
Yeah.
men. It's a little harder to get them to, stop working or put themselves, not that it's easy for women to put themselves first either, but yeah, they're less likely to sign up for something like this. But the guys who have, I've really enjoyed working with. I do work with a lot of men privately, but in the groups, I think it could be really beneficial for more men to come together. And I also do an advanced level 2 powerful women group occasionally as well. So we kind of take that to just a whole different level. Um, but yes, I'm in the middle and process of writing a book as well, and that it's been a very long process. And
I know about that.
yes, yes, you do. Yeah, so it's a long process. It's been through many iterations and changes, but we're moving in the right direction. I have a coach that I work with, and she helps me to edit and create the content for the chapters, and we're plugging through, and every 2 weeks I meet with her, and we'll get there. I'll get there.
Well, I cannot
Yeah, it's
wait
really
until
it's a deep, very profound, deep
when
book.
you get
So
the book done. I would love to have you
I would
back
love
after
that.
I read it. I would love
I
to
would
have
love
you
that.
back and
Yes.
dive more
Yep.
into your book.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that you came today, Laurie. I love sharing
Thanks for
these
having me.
messages with my listeners. Um, Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Pain to Power. I hope this conversation with Laurie McAnaugh inspired you as much as it inspired me. If you'd like to learn more about Laurie's coaching, workshops, or group programs, be sure to visit her website at lauriemcanaugh.com. And I'll also include that link in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Your feedback truly helps this podcast reach more people who are ready to heal and grow. And if you know someone who could benefit from this message, please share it with them. Until next time, remember, your pain is not your ending. It's your beginning. Keep turning your pain into power.